The great hall went silent when Dahlia Cross stepped onto the selection platform. There were 200 students beneath the vaulted windows, 12 elite candidates arranged in a gleaming line, and one scholarship Omega hiding behind the Strategy Club's registration desk. Naturally, Dahlia looked past all 12 candidates and pointed at me. Her? Professor Orlov blinked. Miss Cross, Mira Sen is not on the final roster. Then your roster is wrong. Every face in the room turned toward me. I stopped pretending the same paragraph on my clipboard required a 7th reading. Dahlia waited in a black uniform, cut so sharply it seemed capable of winning arguments without her. The silver raven crest at her collar caught the winter light, while her expression suggested she had already calculated everyone's objections and found them boring. "Come here, Mira." I rose slowly. Was that an invitation? One corner of her mouth moved, not a smile. Dahlia Cross did not smile in public. She allowed the world brief evidence that she possessed the necessary muscles. "Yes," she said, "you may refuse. In front of 200 people? You corrected me in front of 300. A murmur raced through the hall. So that was what this was about. 6 weeks earlier, I had publicly dismantled the most feared alpha at Ravenhall University. I had spent every day since wondering when she would take revenge. Apparently, she had chosen theatrical recruitment. Dahlia extended one hand. "Stand with me." The words sounded like a command, because everything sounded like a command in her low, precise voice. But her palm remained open, and she did not move closer. The choice sat visibly between us. I should have stayed behind my desk. I should have remembered that Dahlia was heir to Cross Meridian, captain of Ravenhall's undefeated Aegis strategy team, and the alpha who had once made a dean apologize using only 8 seconds of eye contact. Instead, I walked onto the stage. Her gaze tracked every step. When I stopped beside her, she removed the silver raven pin from her collar and fastened it to the lapel of my inexpensive blue blazer. Her knuckles brushed the fabric above my heart, careful enough that the touch could never be mistaken for an accident. "Temporary," I whispered. "We'll see." Arrogant, accurate. Professor Orlov cleared his throat. "Captain Cross, do you intend to explain why you rejected 12 ranked candidates for an Omega with no Crown Circuit experience?" Dahlia looked at the audience, but her hand remained beside mine. "Because everyone here is afraid to tell me when I'm wrong." Then she looked at me. "She isn't. If you had been in my place, with every eye on you, and Ravenhall's most dangerous woman offering you the one opportunity you had secretly wanted all year, would you have stepped onto that stage?" I did. The more important question was why Dahlia Cross had been so certain I would. 6 weeks earlier, at Ravenhall, fear had excellent posture and Dahlia's face. Students moved aside before she reached a corridor. Professors checked their citations twice when she attended seminars. Alphas, who ordinarily filled rooms with careless dominance, lowered their voices around her, and Omegas learned to breathe shallowly when she passed. I had become very good at shallow breathing. My scholarship covered tuition, a narrow room in North Tower, and exactly none of the expensive social rituals that made Ravenhall feel less like a university than a 4-year audition for inherited power. I worked mornings in the archive, evenings at the Strategy Club desk, and took suppressants prescribed through the campus clinic so nobody's biology could turn me into a conversation I had not agreed to have. I preferred invisibility. It was cheap, quiet, and usually came with time to read. Then Dahlia walked into Professor Bell's Advanced Conflict Systems seminar and ruined it. She arrived 4 minutes late, not because she lacked discipline, but because the trustees had detained her. The room shifted as the faint trace of black tea, cedar, and winter rain followed her down the aisle. I resented noticing. Professor Bell displayed the Siege of Ardent simulation across the wall and said, "Captain Cross, perhaps you'll demonstrate the accepted solution." Dahlia studied the map for 20 seconds. Evacuate the Eastern District, reinforce the bridge, and force the opposing coalition into a single supply route. Pens scratched, heads nodded. Even Professor Bell looked relieved. I stared at the projected river currents and felt irritation climb my throat. My friend Tessa, a beta with a survival instinct on loan from better people, leaned close. "No. I didn't say anything. Your eyebrows did." Dahlia continued. "Once their route narrows, we negotiate from strength." I raised my hand. Tessa closed her eyes. "I'll tell your mother you died literate." Professor Bell pretended not to see me. Dahlia did. "The Omega in row 7 has an objection," she said. "Mira Sen," I supplied. "I know." That unsettled me more than the attention of 300 students. I had never spoken to her. Professor Bell sighed. "Proceed, Miss Sen." I stood. "Your plan loses the city in 48 hours." Silence landed with physical weight. Dahlia tilted her head. "Why?" No anger. That made me bolder. "The bridge isn't the objective. The reservoir is. Evacuating east puts 80,000 civilians on the same road the coalition needs us to clog. They don't have to take the bridge if we manufacture a humanitarian crisis for them." Professor Bell frowned at the map. "The standard record identifies the bridge as decisive." The standard record was written before the hydrology appendix was declassified. Dahlia's attention sharpened. Page 412. Alternative. Leave the district in place. Open the Southern Market Road, apparently weakening our position. When they divert, we cut their communications at the old rail junction and trade access to the reservoir for a civilian corridor. Risk? They see the trap. Then? We make the trap profitable enough that they choose it anyway. Something warm and dangerous entered her eyes. Professor Bell said, "Captain Cross?" Dahlia kept looking at me. "She's right." The room exhaled. I sat, pulse hammering. Tessa wrote, "You are a menace," across the top of my notes. After the seminar, I took the west stairs to avoid the crowd. Dahlia waited on the landing. Of course she did. Mira Sen. I tightened my grip on my books. Dahlia Cross. You read a 600-page declassification, nobody assigned. I work in the archive. Wild things happen near books. Her gaze dropped to the frayed strap of my bag, then returned to my face. You waited until I finished. Interrupting is rude. Publicly proving me wrong isn't? That depends. Are you going to crush my academic future? She stepped down one stair, then stopped before entering my space. Would you like me farther away? The question surprised an honest answer out of me. No. Good. Her voice softened by 1 degree. I don't punish accuracy. A charming motto. Put it on the family crest. Our current motto is worse. What is it? Win first? And second? There usually isn't a second. I laughed before I could stop myself. Dahlia stared, as though the sound had revised a private equation. Do that again. Was that another invitation? A request? Denied? Her almost smile appeared. Tomorrow, then. What happens tomorrow? You correct me again. She walked past me, leaving winter rain in the stairwell and a question under my skin. How long had the most watched woman at Ravenhall been watching me? The answer, I learned after the selection, was longer than I wanted and shorter than she deserved. Professor Orloff gave us 6 weeks to prepare for the Crown Circuit, an inter-university strategy tournament conducted through negotiations, live simulations, and enough formal wear to make warfare look like philanthropy. Dahlia led diplomacy and command. I was assigned intelligence and counter-strategy. Assigned? I asked when we entered the Aegis team room. You ambushed me in public. You would have declined in private. True, my method was efficient. Your method weaponized my inability to flee gracefully. She set a stack of tournament files in front of me. You could have refused. You keep saying that. I need you to believe it. The room had emptied at her glance. Through the glass walls, I saw 3 senior candidates pretending not to stare. Why? I asked. Because I intend to ask for many things. Heat touched my cheeks. Strategy things? Initially, I opened the first file so she would not see how effectively one word had disrupted me. We need terms. Name them. No decisions about my schedule without me. No using your family to interfere with my scholarship. No alpha voice. Her face became still. I don't use compulsion. Good. Easy term. Anything else? If you say stand with me, I get to ask whether you mean it as captain or as Dahlia. And if I say both, then I get to tell both of you no. She extended her hand across the table. Agreed. Her palm was warm. The handshake lasted 1 beat too long, which was either a mistake or the first honest thing between us. My terms, she said. You eat during long sessions. You tell me when the team's dynamics make you uncomfortable. You do not hide useful observations because someone outranks you. That last one sounds suspiciously tailored. It is. And if I refuse, I will ask why, listen to the answer, and become extremely irritating. You're already overqualified. Our first private simulation began with Dahlia locking the strategy room door. That feels ominous, I said. The team keeps interrupting you. They call it contributing. They repeat your ideas more loudly and call it contributing. I set my notebook on the table, and locking them out solves institutional bias? For 40 minutes. A visionary reformer. Dahlia started the simulation clock. You command the western port, I command the blockade. 12,000 civilians are trapped between us. Begin. Open a medical corridor. Denied. That was quick. You gave me no incentive. Human life? You are negotiating with an opponent who has already accepted civilian loss. Try again. I moved 3 blue ships away from the harbor. I'll release your captured supply vessel in exchange for 6 hours of access. I need the blockade more than the vessel. Then I publish the manifest proving your officers diverted medicine. Fabricated? Obtained from your quartermaster who dislikes you. My quartermaster is loyal. Your quartermaster is underpaid. Dahlia leaned over the map. You assume everyone can be bought. No, I assume everyone wants something. Difference? A bribe names the price. Strategy discovers the need. Her eyes lifted. What does my quartermaster need? To be respected by the officers who treat logistics as servant work. I promise her public authorship of the evacuation plan. And if she refuses? I ask what I misread. You would reveal uncertainty. To one person, privately. You reveal it to me every time you ask a better question. I do not reveal uncertainty. You hide it in excellent tailoring. Dahlia reached across me and stopped the clock. Her arm formed a line beside mine, close enough to raise every fine hair on my skin without making contact. Look at me, she said. I did not. Captain or Dahlia? A beat passed. Captain. I kept studying the map. Then give me a strategic reason. I need to know whether you believe what you just said. That sounds personal. It affects whether I trust your model. Better. I looked up. Yes. I believe uncertainty shared with the right person becomes intelligence, and the wrong person becomes leverage. Which am I? That sounds very personal. Mira. Dahlia. Her mouth almost curved. Answer. Ask without hiding behind your rank. She straightened, putting space between us. Do you trust me with your uncertainty? The honest answer arrived before the safe one. More than I intended. Dahlia went still. Is that unwelcome? Inconvenient? Not the same. No. Then my answer is the same. I forgot the blockade. You trust me? You told 300 people I would lose a city. A memorable foundation. You were correct, specific, and uninterested in embarrassing me. Most people manage one. I was a little interested. Noted. I touched the silver timer between us. Resume? Dahlia placed her hand over it before I could press the button. One condition. We have a contract now. You cannot invent conditions recreationally. You skipped lunch. Espionage. Observation. You're using my word against me. Efficiently. She opened a paper bag and set a sandwich beside my notebook. Eat half, then defeat me. That sounded like a command. It was an offer with an attractive sequence. And if I choose to defeat you hungry, I become extremely irritating. I picked up the sandwich. You repeat yourself. Only when you require reinforcement. I ate half, then slid the other half toward her. Partnership moves in both directions. I ate. Coffee is not food. That is a hostile interpretation. Refuse if you want. Dahlia held my gaze, then took the sandwich from my hand. Her fingers brushed mine, brief and warm. Satisfied? She asked. Temporarily. Dangerous answer. You locked the door. For strategic focus. Of course. She restarted the clock. You have 23 minutes to open your corridor. I moved my chair beside hers instead of across from it. Then stop blocking my light. Dahlia shifted without comment, her shoulder settling close to mine. We opened the corridor in 11 minutes. I spent the remaining 12 wondering whether she had been testing my strategy, my trust, or the distance I would choose between us. For the next 2 weeks, we fought across maps. Dahlia thought in clean lines, leverage, consequence, decision. I thought in doors left open, people underestimated, and motives nobody admitted aloud. The Northbridge team will betray the alliance by round 3, she said one midnight. Round 2. They need our transport votes. Their captain needs them. Their negotiator wants to humiliate her captain. Evidence? I slid over a recording from the previous year. She says we when discussing victories, and Captain Roke when discussing the failed treaty. Dahlia listened twice. Round 2. I accept your surrender. I revised my conclusion. In my culture, we call that losing. In mine, people who gloat by dinner. Your culture finally has a useful tradition. Dinner arrived 20 minutes later from a restaurant whose appetizers cost more than my weekly groceries. I crossed my arms. This violates a term. Which? No using wealth to make me feel like a rescued orphan in a 19th century novel. You never proposed that term. It was implied. Then eat the dumplings and add it to the contract. You ordered cardamom pear cake. You like it. How do you know? Dahlia moved a red marker over the map. You buy one slice from the Archive Cafe every Thursday after your constitutional theory lecture. I stared at her. She looked up. Too much? There it was again. The pause, the offered retreat. Potentially, I said. How many Thursdays? 4. That is unsettling. Noted. It is also oddly sweet. Her fingers tightened around the marker. Also noted. The great Dahlia Cross could dismantle an opponent before breakfast, but one reluctant compliment made color rise along the sharp line of her cheekbones. I ate the cake very slowly. After that, observational intimacy became our most dangerous game. I learned she rolled her left shoulder when a board meeting had gone badly. She learned I tapped a pen against my thumb when my suppressants caused a headache. I learned she read every message twice before responding. She learned I reorganized the colored tokens when anxious and left them crooked when content. You're staring, I said during a trade route simulation. Observing. That defense sounded less alarming when I used it about troop movements. Your green token is crooked. I looked down. It was. Congratulations, I said. You've discovered happiness. Her knee touched mine under the table. I suspected. Neither of us moved away. The suppressant headache turned vicious during our 3rd week. I hid it through a practice negotiation, through Professor Orlov's notes, and through 20 minutes of Dahlia watching me become progressively less convincing. Then I reached for a folder and missed. Enough, she said. The team froze. That was a folder, not an enemy position, I muttered. Dahlia crouched beside my chair. Mira, may I touch you? 6 people became intensely fascinated by their tablets. I nodded. My wrist. She placed 2 fingers over my pulse, her touch steady and light. Black tea and winter rain cut through the sour edge of pain. You're overheated. Your medical degree is dazzling. Can you walk? Yes. Will you let me take you to the clinic? No. Her jaw flexed. Why? Because it's a common side effect. My room is 10 minutes away, and the clinic records every unscheduled Omega visit for insurance review. That policy is invasive. Welcome to my life. She rose and addressed the room. Practice is over. Dahlia, for me, she said, eyes still on mine. You are free to continue without us. It was a clever correction. She had not dismissed the team on my behalf. She had removed herself. Outside, snow pressed white hands against the windows. Dahlia held my coat, but did not put it around me until I slipped my arms into it myself. May I walk you home? People will talk. People already believe I devour poorly prepared students after sunset. Do you? Only during exam season. I laughed, regretted it, and pressed my fingers to my temple. Her expression tightened. Car or walking? Walking. Cold helps. She matched my pace across the quad. When an alpha from the rowing society came too close on the narrow path, Dahlia shifted to the outside without touching me and took the full impact of his startled retreat. You didn't growl, I said. I considered it. How restrained. Praise me again. Don't become greedy. At North Tower, she stopped below the stone arch. I can manage from here, I said. I know. She did not say I'll come up. She did not tell me to rest. She simply waited in the snow, powerful enough to command half the campus, and disciplined enough not to use that power on me. I took 2 steps inside, then looked back. Dahlia? Yes? Would you like to come up? The triumph in her eyes was so quick another person might have missed it. Yes? My room was small enough that Dahlia's presence altered its architecture. She removed her coat, took the chair when I pointed to it, and watched me measure water from the kettle. "Sit," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Captain or Dahlia?" she asked. "Bossy nuisance." Unofficial third category. "I'm adding it to the contract." I sat because the room tilted, not because she told me to. Dahlia accepted the distinction. "Medication?" she asked. "Top drawer, white packet." "May I?" "Yes." She brought the packet and a glass of water, then knelt in front of me. Dahlia Cross, who never lowered herself before anyone, rested one forearm on my knee only after I turned my palm upward in permission. "Your scent changes when you're in pain," she said quietly. I went still. Suppressants muted the cardamom, old paper, and ripe pear that belonged to me, but an alpha with her senses could still catch traces at close range. Is that a problem? It makes me want to fix something I can't fix. You can't conquer side effects. I dislike opponents without headquarters. Then stay until the medicine works. Her gaze lifted to mine. Are you sure? I threaded my fingers through hers. That was a choice, Dahlia. She brought my knuckles to her lips, but waited a breath away. Yes, I whispered. The kiss was barely pressure, a promise made to my skin. She stayed for 2 hours. We did not practice strategy. We sat shoulder to shoulder on my narrow bed, our linked hands between us, while she read a terrible campus mystery novel aloud, in a voice of grave authority. "The librarian is obviously guilty," I said. "That is prejudice against your profession." "Archivist, different profession." "Then your accusation is unbiased." When I woke at dawn, the headache had faded. Dahlia was asleep against the wall, neck bent at an impossible angle, still holding my hand. I understood then that her care had a shape. It was not soft. It was a blade laid deliberately on the table, within reach but not against my throat. And I had invited it into my room. Livia Hart began flirting with me on a Tuesday. She was an alpha from Northbridge, visiting for a joint Crown Circuit workshop, with a crooked grin and the kind of confidence that asked permission by making refusal entertaining. "Mira Sen," she said at the reception. "The Omega who corrected Dahlia Cross and survived." Disappointed? Intrigued? I thought there would be scorch marks. Dahlia is more controlled than her reputation. You used her first name. So did you. Yes, but she isn't staring at me like she's deciding whether international law applies indoors. I glanced across the room. Dahlia stood beside a trustee, holding a glass she had not touched. Her expression was calm. The stem of the glass looked less fortunate. "She's not jealous," I said. Livia laughed. "That was adorable." "Careful, I have a reputation now." "Then let me risk it. Coffee tomorrow?" Before I could answer, Dahlia appeared beside us. "Hart." "Cross?" Livia smiled broadly. "We were discussing coffee." "Were you?" I looked at Dahlia. "Captain or Dahlia?" Her eyes came to mine at once. "Dahlia." "Then ask the question you actually came over to ask." Livia made an appreciative sound. "I like her." "So do I," Dahlia said. The room did not go silent, but my body did. Dahlia set down her glass. "Mira, may I speak with you alone?" "You may ask." "I may say no." "Yes." I turned to Livia. "Excuse me." "Happily. This is better than coffee." Dahlia led me to the moonlit conservatory, where glass walls held the winter at a beautiful distance. She stopped beside a white camellia tree. "I dislike Hart's interest in you. I noticed. I have no claim." also noticed. I want one. My pulse stumbled. A claim? No. Dahlia took one controlled breath. A chance. I leaned against the stone planter. You're asking to court me? Directly, exclusively, if you want the same. Publicly or privately, according to your preference. Do you rehearse everything? Only things that frighten me. That stripped the wit from my tongue. You're afraid of asking me out? You are the only person at Ravenhall whose no could injure me. I studied her, and if I say I need time, I wait. If I have coffee with Livia, I become unbearable in private and civil in public. If I say yes, Dahlia stepped close enough for the winter rain edge of her scent to surround me, but left the last inch untouched. I court you with intent. That sounds ominous. It is intended to. I placed one finger against her silver collar pin. Then here are my terms. No secret ownership games. No deciding what I need without asking. Jealousy may be confessed, but not used as policy. Agreed. And Livia is getting coffee with both of us tomorrow, because her face when you arrive will be worth the price. Dahlia closed her eyes briefly. Cruel. Accurate. Is that a yes? I curled my finger under the edge of her pin and drew her one fraction closer. It's a yes to the chance. Her hands remained at her sides. May I kiss you? You may try. Mira. Yes. Dahlia touched my jaw as if learning the exact weight of permission. The first kiss was controlled, a warm press that made my knees unreliable. The second only came when I caught her lapel and pulled her back. Her restraint broke beautifully. She kissed me with decisive hunger, one hand settling at my waist, the other still gentle at my face. I tasted the breath she caught when I moved closer, voluntarily closing every careful inch she had left between us. When we parted, her forehead rested against mine. Tell me if I'm too much, she said. You are too much. Her hand loosened. I held her in place. I didn't say stop. The look she gave me could have melted the frost from every window in the conservatory. Again? She asked. That was almost timid. Again, Mira? Yes, Dahlia. Outside, snow-covered Ravenhall, in clean white silence. Inside, the most feared alpha at the university kissed me like my answer was the only authority she recognized. Dahlia's courtship was exactly as understated as a military parade. The next morning, a black box waited at the archive desk. Inside lay a fountain pen, restored from the defunct maker, whose catalogs I had once searched during lunch. The note read, "For correcting future errors. You remain free to begin with mine." I found her outside the strategy room. This is excessive. It was broken. It was also in a private collection in Prague. The collector was open to reason. Money is not reason. No, but my analysis of his terrible auction investments was. I tried not to smile. I cannot match gifts like this. I'm not asking you to. Courtship has to move in both directions. Then choose the direction. At noon, we kept my promise to have coffee with Livia. She looked from Dahlia to me, then to the single chair Dahlia had pulled out at our table. Is that for Mira or for your territorial instincts? Mira, Dahlia said. Good answer. I sat. You may remain. Dahlia took the chair beside mine, generous. Livia sipped her coffee. So this is official. Courtship, Dahlia said. A chance, I corrected. An exclusive chance. Subject to review. Livia's grin widened, cross, blink twice, if the terrifying Omega is holding you hostage. Dahlia did not blink. I entered negotiations voluntarily. And she brought a gift large enough to destabilize Central Europe, I said. A pen. A historic pen. Livia leaned forward. Mira, I can offer a much less intimidating courtship package. 2 coffees and a pastry, with no documented provenance. Dahlia's hand settled on the table, palm upward beside mine. She did not touch me. I placed my fingers in hers. Tempting, I told Livia, but I'm testing this one. Dahlia's thumb brushed my knuckles once. The quiet satisfaction in her face felt more possessive than any growl, and more intimate, because I had invited it. Terrible loss for Northbridge, Livia said. Excellent entertainment for me. You were never a serious rival, Dahlia replied. And yet you came across a crowded reception to interrupt. A tactical verification. Jealousy, I translated. Dahlia looked at me, confessed, not policy. I squeezed her hand. Look at you, learning. Livia lifted her cup in salute. To terrifying women with good governance. For the first time, Dahlia smiled fully in public. It changed her face so completely that the 2 students at the next table forgot to pretend they were not watching. She noticed, the smile vanished, and I laughed hard enough to earn a wounded glare. Cruel, she said. You like me that way. Decisively. That evening, I brought her tea in a chipped archive mug and made her leave the team room before midnight. She accepted both with the solemnity of a treaty. This mug says, "Ask me about municipal tax records," she observed. It's my most seductive possession. I'm overwhelmed. Drink your tea. She did. We built a rhythm from small permissions. Her hand at my back in crowded rooms, but only after my nod. My feet across her lap during late practice, because I put them there. Her coat around my shoulders, my fingers straightening the collar she never allowed anyone else to touch. And every time she said, "Stand with me," I asked, "Captain or Dahlia?" Sometimes she said, "Captain," and we faced another team across the simulation floor. Sometimes she said, "Dahlia," and I joined her at the edge of a reception, while half the room wondered why she looked less dangerous with me beside her. Once she said, "Both," and I answered, "Not tonight." She only nodded. "Tomorrow? Ask me tomorrow." She did. That should have warned me how much it would hurt when she forgot to ask. The Crown Circuit semi-final began on a Friday morning. By 8, the Great Hall had become a simulated parliament, with 6 universities trading water rights, transport access, and defense guarantees beneath the gaze of judges and donors. Dahlia wore her captain's pin again, while the temporary raven crest remained on my blue blazer. We had agreed I would return it after the tournament. Neither of us believed that anymore. Celeste Vale intercepted me near the delegates' entrance. She was the senior alpha Dahlia had passed over during selection, an heiress with pale gloves and a smile polished to conceal sharp edges. "Miss Sen," she said, "enjoying the costume?" I touched the pin, immensely. It wards off tedious conversation, though apparently the warranty has limits. Dahlia's fascination won't survive a loss. Then it's fortunate I plan to win. You misunderstand. People like us can afford public experiments. People like you become them. Dahlia appeared at my shoulder. "Val." Celeste's smile tightened. "Captain, your delegation is waiting. I was offering your analyst advice. Mira has never lacked advice, only worthwhile sources." Celeste walked away. Dahlia looked at me. "Did she threaten you?" "She attempted class warfare before breakfast. I'm offended by the timing." "Mira, not a threat we can report. Just a threat she wanted me to feel." "Do you?" I considered lying, then remembered our terms. A little. Dahlia extended her hand. Stand with me. Captain or Dahlia? Both. I placed my hand in hers. Then let's make her regret giving me motivation. We won the first 2 rounds. In the third, Livia betrayed us exactly 11 minutes later than predicted, grinning apologetically as Northbridge seized our shipping votes. You owe me coffee, I told her across the chamber. Worth it, she called back. Dahlia leaned toward me. I remain willing to invade them. Jealousy is not policy. This is a trade dispute. Of course. We recovered by offering Northbridge a treaty that split its delegation's priorities. When the final bell rang, Ravenhall led by 9 points. Then every tablet in the hall lit at once. An anonymous account had posted 3 pages from my campus medical record. My suppressant prescription, my dosage changes, dates of clinic visits. A physician's note about stress-related scent fluctuation, stripped of context and circled in red beneath the headline, Is Ravenhall hiding an unstable omega on its crown team? For 1 second, I could not read the room. Then I read all of it. The judges whispering, students enlarging the images, an opposing captain glancing at Dahlia to see whether my biology had made me a tactical weakness. Shame arrived hot enough to blur the lights. Dahlia stood. The hall went silent for her. Put your devices down. Dozens obeyed, before remembering they did not have to. Her presence expanded, cold and absolute. Anyone who shares those records will answer to Ravenhall's disciplinary board, the civil courts, and me. Professor Orlov hurried toward us. Captain Cross, the judges are calling a recess. Call security. Seal the media exits. Preserve the network logs. Dahlia, I said. She did not hear me, or she heard too much else. No one approaches Mira without my permission. I stood. Dahlia, her gaze snapped to me. Outside, she said. Ask. Pain crossed her face, almost invisible beneath fury. Will you come outside with me? I wanted to refuse because the entire hall expected me to disappear. I also wanted to be somewhere my private dosage was not reflected in 200 pairs of eyes. Yes. She removed her jacket and held it up, offering rather than covering me. I slid into it. Cedar and black tea surrounded me, and the room's edges stopped shaking. We walked out together. That was my choice. What came next was not. Dahlia took me to a private conference room in Cross House, the alumni building her family had endowed. 2 lawyers were already waiting, along with Professor Orlov, the dean of students, and a campus security officer. I stopped in the doorway. How? I called from the corridor, Dahlia said. That was 4 minutes ago. They were nearby. One lawyer opened a folder. Miss Sen, we have drafted an emergency injunction and a statement denying that your medical status affects competitive fitness. You drafted a statement about me without speaking to me? Dahlia pulled out a chair. Sit. We need to move before the story spreads. Captain or Dahlia? This is not the time. The words struck harder than they should have. I looked around the room. Everyone out. The dean stared. The lawyer blinked. Dahlia said, Go. They obeyed her, not me. That was the problem arranged in one humiliating detail. When the door closed, I removed her jacket and laid it on the chair. You are not issuing that statement. It can stop republication. It confirms the records are real and invites strangers to debate whether my body affects my competence. Our legal team can contain that. Your legal team? They're the best available. To whom? Mira, somebody violated you. Let me handle it. No. She went very still. No to the statement. No to you handling me. That is not what I said. It is what you're doing. I pointed toward the door. You brought me into a room full of powerful people, made decisions before I arrived, and turned my humiliation into a crisis you command. Because it is a crisis. Mine, ours. You don't get to make it ours by annexation. Dahlia's control cracked. Do you want those images everywhere? Do you want Vale smiling while people reduce you to a clinic note? You think Celeste did it? I know she benefits. Benefit is not proof. We taught that in week 1. I will find proof. I will. You are shaking, and still capable of thought. She stepped closer. I can keep you safe. Safe from what? The public? The tournament? My own response? From having to fight this alone. Standing beside me is not the same as standing in front of me. Then stand with me. She said it in the voice that moved teams and froze rooms. Not compulsion, but command sharpened by fear. The phrase that had once offered me a place now tried to assign one. I picked up my bag. No. Dahlia's face emptied. Mira, you promised I could say it. You can. Then prove you meant that. Her hands closed at her sides. She could have blocked the door with one step. She moved away from it. I walked out. Nobody followed me through the corridor. Nobody stopped me from crossing the snowy quad alone. By the time I reached the archive basement, my anger had burned down to hurt. Tessa found me between municipal records and a broken microfilm reader. I brought contraband, she said, holding up 2 vending machine chocolates. And no comforting statements, because they all sound like things embroidered on pillows. I took one. You're a good friend. Disgusting. Take it back. I told her about the conference room. Tessa listened, then peeled the wrapper from her chocolate with great care. Do you want me to say Dahlia was wrong, or do you want me to say why? Both. She was wrong because she made your consent a luxury for after the emergency. And emergencies are exactly when it matters. I leaned my head against the shelf. She moved away from the door. That is not nothing. It's also not enough. No. My phone buzzed. One message from Dahlia waited on the screen. You were right. I am sorry. I have stopped the statement and instructed everyone that you will choose the response. I will not contact you again tonight unless you ask. Then a second message appeared. The tournament has preserved its logs. I have not accessed them. They are yours if you want them. Tessa read my expression. Better? Painfully. Good apologies often are. I did not answer Dahlia that night. Instead, I opened my laptop. The leak had not been coincidence. The screenshots displayed a pale vertical band on the left edge, produced by the clinic's accessibility export rather than its standard patient portal. Only authorized committee reviewers received that format. Celeste Vale served on the Student Wellness Oversight Council. That was not proof either, but it was a door. I called Professor Amani, the faculty privacy officer, and requested an emergency audit under the university's own medical access charter. I asked Tessa to archive every repost with timestamps. I contacted Livia because Northbridge's delegation had received the anonymous link 23 seconds before the public post. You want the transmission metadata? Livia asked. I want everything you can lawfully give me. Cross, no, you called? No. Are you two fighting? Livia. Sending the headers now. At 2 in the morning, I finally messaged Dahlia. I need resources, not rescue. Her reply came before the typing indicator could blink. Name them. Your cybersecurity consultant. No cross-family contact with the university. You don't speak for me. You don't threaten Celeste. A longer pause. Agreed. Would you like me present? I stared at the question. Tomorrow. Archive 9. Come alone. I will. She arrived at 8:58 without lawyers, assistants, or her captain's coat. For the first time since I had known her, Dahlia looked uncertain at a threshold. May I come in? Yes. She entered and stayed on the other side of the work table. I'm sorry, she said. Not for caring, for treating care as authority. I folded my arms. You made my no sound inconvenient. It terrified me. That does not make it less important. No, it makes respecting it the measure of me. I looked down at the records spread between us. I don't need you less dominant. Her breath caught. I like that you're decisive, I continued. I like the way you take a room apart. I even like it when you tell me to sit, and then remember I can ignore you. You usually do, with pleasure. But protection without choice is a prettier cage. Dahlia nodded once. Then I will learn the difference every time it matters. Learning means you may fail again. Then you may leave again. And you'll move away from the door? Every time. The answer hurt the tight place inside me until it loosened. I turned the laptop toward her. Sit. One eyebrow rose. Mira or lead investigator? She asked. Both. Dahlia sat. I did not forgive her all at once. I did something harder. I gave her a role in the plan I had chosen. By noon, the audit showed that someone had accessed my record through a council credential at 6:14 the previous evening. The credential belonged to Celeste, but her counsel claimed it had been stolen. Dahlia's consultant found the anonymous upload had traveled through a relay purchased with a prepaid account. Livia's message headers placed the first transmission on Ravenhall's internal guest network. Still circumstantial, Dahlia said. You sound pleased. You taught me not to confuse certainty with desire. You were listening, always. The final piece came from Celeste's own strategy. She had embedded an invisible tracking pixel in the message sent to Northbridge, hoping to monitor which delegations opened it before the public release. The pixel, called a campaign server, registered to the Vale Foundation. Dahlia looked at the report. That is spectacularly arrogant. I've noticed wealth makes people believe metadata is a servant. What do you want to do? Not what should I do? Not shall I destroy her? The question belonged to me. Resume the semifinal, I said. Then hold the privacy hearing in public. The university will resist. They publicized my vulnerability by failing to protect it. They can publicize the consequence. And the medical details? I won't defend them. I'll defend my right not to. Dahlia's gaze warmed. That line wins the room. It isn't strategy. The best lines rarely are. Professor Imani approved the hearing. The tournament judges approved our return. At 3, I walked back into the great hall, wearing my blue blazer and the raven pin. Dahlia waited by the stage steps. Would you like my hand? She asked. 200 people watched. I took it. Yes. We entered together, but I spoke first. This morning, private medical records were distributed to suggest that an Omega receiving ordinary health care was unstable, deceptive, and unfit to compete, I said. I will not prove my competence by explaining my dosage to you. Privacy that exists only for people with nothing stigmatized to hide is not privacy. The judges listened. Students lowered their devices. The leak was meant to remove my choices, so here are mine. I choose to remain on this team. I choose to request formal action against the person responsible. And I choose not to be ashamed of taking medication that lets me study, compete, and decide how my body enters public space. I presented the audit trail, the network headers, and the tracking pixel. Celeste's counsel objected twice. Professor Imani overruled her twice. When Celeste finally spoke, she made the mistake proud people always made. She tried to explain why her victim had deserved the harm. Ravenhall has eligibility standards, she said. The public had a right to know whether Miss Sen's condition compromised. Which condition? I asked. She stopped. The clinic note you claim you never saw names, no condition. Only the stolen version does. Celeste's face changed. The room understood. By sunset, the university suspended her from the council and the Crown Circuit, pending a full disciplinary tribunal. The dean announced an independent review of medical access, automatic alerts for record exports, and Omega representation on the oversight board. It was not a perfect ending. The screenshots still existed. Some people would always remember the headline before the correction. But the conflict did not vanish because Dahlia frightened it away. It changed because I built a response, gathered proof, and made Ravenhall face me while I delivered it. When the semi-final resumed, Dahlia took her captain's position beside me. "Orders?" she murmured. "You're asking me?" "Enjoy it briefly." I smiled. Collapse Vale's coalition. Politely. Dahlia's answering smile was small and lethal. With pleasure. We won by 16 points. After the hall emptied, I found Dahlia in the conservatory, where she had first kissed me. She stood beside the white camellia tree, jacket open, silver captain's pin catching the moonlight. Victory had not softened her posture, but fatigue had made her honest. "You disappeared," she said. "I walked here, very dramatic, but technically different. Are you all right?" "Not entirely." She accepted that without trying to repair it. "Do you want company?" "I want an answer." "Ask." The question had followed me from the selection platform, through every midnight practice, every careful touch, and every moment her attention made an invisible woman feel dangerously seen. "Why me?" Dahlia looked toward the frost, silvering the glass. "The seminar was not the first time I noticed you. I knew it. You hoped. Don't ruin my interrogation." Her almost smile faded into something more vulnerable. "Last spring, I came to the archive for the Halden correspondence. It was restricted. I told the desk assistant my father sat on the archive board. I remembered an expensive black coat, an impatient voice, and my refusal delivered without looking up from the request form. "That was you?" "You said, then he can teach you the difference between a donor and a research credential." That does sound like me. Nobody spoke to me that way. Tragic. You did not know who I was, and when you looked up, you did. Dahlia met my eyes. "You still made me complete the form. Rules are the refuge of scholarship students facing rich alphas. It was not only the refusal. You helped me find an unrestricted source that was better for my argument. You denied me what I demanded, and gave me what I needed." I moved closer. "So you became obsessed with proper archive procedure?" "I came back 11 times. You checked out books. Terrible ones. You read agrarian tariff structures of the Lower West for me?" I skimmed. I laughed, and her expression warmed at the sound, just as it had on the stairwell. "Then you challenged me in Bell's seminar," she continued. "You were afraid. I could hear it in your breathing. You stood anyway, not because you wanted attention, but because the truth mattered more than your comfort." Her voice dropped. "Everyone else saw an Omega who did not fear me. I saw an Omega who feared me, and chose herself anyway." My throat tightened. "I chose you for ages because you were the best strategist in the room," she said. "I courted you because every room changed when you stopped hiding in it. I wanted your mind, your defiance, your inconvenient mercy. I wanted the woman who could tell me no, and trust me enough to stay for my answer. That was almost a speech. It was several months overdue. I reached for her hand. You frightened me when I first saw you. I know. You still frighten most people. I know that too. But I'm not most people. Her fingers closed carefully around mine. No. I love that you are sharp, I said. I love that you notice crooked tokens and bad auction investments. I love that when fear made you controlling, you stopped when I said no, and came back, willing to change. Dahlia's composure vanished in one quiet breath. Mira, I love you. She touched my cheek. May I? I kissed her before she finished. She made a startled sound against my mouth, then gathered me close. Her hands were certain, mine were the permission, pulling her nearer until winter rain mingled with cardamom and the glass around us clouded with warmth. When I finally let her breathe, her forehead dropped to mine. I love you, she said, decisively, protectively, occasionally badly. We'll revise the last part. Together? That depends. She narrowed her eyes. I smiled. Ask me tomorrow. Tomorrow arrived wearing black silk and family expectations. The Founders' Gala occupied Ravenhall's oldest ballroom on the eve of the Crown Circuit final. Trustees filled the balconies, students crowded the lower floor, and the Cross family stood beneath a silver raven banner as if they had personally invented inheritance. Tessa glanced toward the Cross family. Dahlia's mother invited 3 approved courtship candidates. All 3 are accomplished omegas from powerful families, I said. None look happy to be displayed. Lenora has made me their apparent rival. Tessa adjusted the sleeve of my dark blue gown. If Cross proposes a duel, aim for the chandelier. Rich people hate property damage. Dahlia told me she had a plan. That sentence has historically mixed results. She asked whether I wanted to know it. And? I said no. Tessa stared. You enjoy danger. Across the ballroom, Dahlia wore formal black, with no jewelry except her family signet. Her eyes found me immediately. Tessa followed my gaze. Everyone here is afraid of her. They mistake her stillness for cold ambition, I said. She's checking whether I wore the raven pin. Did you? I touched it. Yes. The previous night, after our confession, I had tried to return it. The tournament ends tomorrow, I had said, placing the silver crest in her palm. Dahlia's face had closed. I see. No, you don't. I folded her fingers around it. Ask me to keep it as your equal, not your recruit. And hope had made the feared Dahlia Cross look almost young. Mira Sen, will you wear my crest because you choose a future with me? Yes. So before Dahlia chose me in front of Ravenhall, I had already chosen her in the quiet. Now, on the gala stage, Lenora raised a glass. Tradition asks each Cross heir to announce an intended courtship before graduation, she said. Dahlia has considered several exceptional candidates. Dahlia took the microphone. No, she said. Lenora's smile hardened. No? I have not considered them. You did. One approved candidate hid a relieved smile behind her glass. Lenora lowered her voice, though every microphone carried it. This is neither the time nor the place. You selected both. Dahlia turned to the ballroom. I will not turn courtship into a merger, and I will not insult 3 women by pretending they volunteered for an announcement arranged around them. They deserve to choose without pressure. The 3 candidates straightened. Then Dahlia looked at me. The ballroom seemed to tilt in her direction. Mira. My name traveled through the crowd. She did not point. She did not say her. She did not issue the command that had once pulled me from safety and later pushed me away. She extended her hand. "Will you stand beside me?" "Beside you," I repeated. "Not behind you as a recruit or in front of you as a shield. Equal ground. Visible choice." I walked onto the stage, but stopped one step below her. Dahlia understood. She stepped down. We met on the same level. "Captain or Dahlia?" I asked softly. Her eyes shone. "Just Dahlia." I put my hand in hers. Then yes. The applause began somewhere near Tessa and spread through the ballroom. Livia whistled from the Northbridge table. Professor Orlov looked as though a dangerous experiment had produced exactly the explosion he wanted. Lenora Cross watched our joined hands. "You would defy your family for this?" Dahlia answered without looking away from me. "I am not defying my family. I am deciding what it means." I squeezed her fingers. "That was excellent. I rehearsed." "Were you frightened?" "Terrified." I kissed her cheek before the entire university. "Good." Her laugh was low and astonished, a sound almost nobody at Ravenhall had heard. For once, they did not step back from Dahlia Cross. They rose for her. The final judge rose the next afternoon. The Crown Circuit champion is Ravenhall University. Dahlia leaned close as the hall erupted. "You found a third option in a scenario designed to force two. You held the coalition together long enough for me to find it. We won." "That sounds dangerously collaborative." The photographer waved Dahlia toward the center. "Captain Cross here. Miss Sen, one step behind." Dahlia did not move. Mira stands beside me. "The composition will improve." I took my place at her shoulder. Bossy, accurate. 2 weeks later, Tessa called from the student paper. "The tribunal confirmed every privacy charge. Celeste lost the council seat, received a 2-year suspension, and faces the civil case you chose to bring. You sound delighted." "I am a serious journalist. I am delighted with restraint." Professor Imani called next. "The new oversight board adopted your export alerts and Omega majority patient panel. We want you in the first student seat." "I accept." Dahlia looked up from across the table. "May my lawyers review the civil filing?" "One may. 3 would be better." 1, 2, do you want 0? 1 is an inspired number. At graduation, Professor Bell raised her voice over the applause. "Here stand the captain who never lost and the analyst who taught her how." "Inaccurate," Dahlia whispered. "You did lose. Only arguments. And your heart. I gave that strategically." Under the vaulted windows, Dahlia knelt with a ring in her palm. "Will you build a life beside me?" I made her wait 3 full seconds. "Cruel," she murmured. "Accurate. Mira." "Yes." 3 years later, our officiant stood beneath the conservatory's white camellias. "Dahlia Cross, do you choose Mira Sen without ownership?" "Freely, completely. Every day she allows me." "Mira Sen, do you choose Dahlia Cross without fear?" "With fear when necessary, with trust every day." Livia passed Tessa a coffee. "You're crying. Allergies. To romance? To smug alphas?" Lenora leaned toward them. "Please be quiet." "Personal growth," I whispered. Dahlia's mouth curved. "Extraordinary." She remained dominant, decisive, and frightening when circumstances deserved it. One evening, maps covered our dining table, and she asked, "Do you ever wish I were less?" "Less what?" "Forceful." "No. I want you controlled, not diminished." "Do you wish I were quieter?" "Never." She extended her hand. "Stand with me. Captain or Dahlia? Your wife." Dangerous third category. Official now. I took her hand, the silver raven crest bright at my collar. At Ravenhall's fifth-year strategy lecture, a student asked, "Is it true Dahlia Cross chose you in front of everyone?" "Yes," I said, "but people tell the story as though a feared alpha crossed a crowded hall, rejected everyone powerful, and rescued an invisible omega in a blue blazer. They missed the part that mattered." "Which part?" "Dahlia offered me her hand in public, but I chose to take it. Again and again. In strategy rooms, in arguments, beneath gala lights, and through every ordinary morning that followed." I looked across the lecture hall at my wife. "So, if you stood where I did, with the whole university watching, and the most dangerous woman in the room asking, not commanding, you to stand beside her, would you step onto that stage?" The student smiled. "Would you?" "I would. I already had."